Good afternoon. So Annex 2 we
Good
continuing.
afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon. Good
Good
afternoon.
afternoon.
Good afternoon. So we done that table of discharge criteria. So the explanation is for the vessels constructed before 31st July 1986. Each tank is going to have that is for X and Y. The ROB or the quantity of residue in excess of 350 liters should not be there along with the piping. So that is for BCH code. And for Z category for before 31st January 2000, 31st July 1986, it was the retaining should not be in excess of 750 liters, including the pipeline. And for that, the performance test is given. And that performance test is done, is basically mentioned in the procedure and arrangement manual of your chemical tanker. So this performance test is done during dry docking. Uh, Fresh water is put in the tank, little fresh water, and the surveyor goes down and that is pumped out. Then the remaining thing is measured in your drum, how much is remaining. So it should not be more than 75 liters. And the contents are mentioned in the performance procedure and arrangement or P&A manual. So every ship constructed on or after 31st July 1986, but before 2000, before 1st January 2007, the residue for X and Y should not be more than 150 liters, along including the pipeline in each tank. And for category Z, it should not be more than 350 liters, and performance test will be done, which mentions that in the P&A manual. Now for the recent one, all ships after 1st January 2007, they will have the pumping and piping arrangements so that for category X, Y, and Z, they do not retain more than 75 liters of residue along with the pipeline. And accordingly, a performance test will be carried out. The contents will be mentioned in your P&A manual. So this performance test uses fresh water as test medium and should be approved by your flag state. And ships are for carrying X, Y, and Z, they should have an underwater discharge. Now slop tanks is not essential there because you don't have a ODMCS for controlling the discharge here. So slop tanks are not essential here, but you may have slop tanks for certain washing procedures where you fill in water there, put your chemicals there for tank cleaning and heat it up and then take suction and do the tank cleaning and again recirculate it. So that you can use it for tank cleaning. So the discharge into sea of residues of X, Y, and Z should be provisionally assessed as such, or ballast water tank washing or mixtures containing such substances. So discharge standard conditions shall apply. That one is your ship should be proceeding en route. Speed should be 7 knot at least. If self-propelled, and if it is being towed, then it should be at least 4 knots. Your discharge should be below your water line and should not exceed the maximum rate of the underwater discharge outlet of the designed outlet. And the discharge should be at a minimum a distance of not less than 12 nautical miles, and the depth of water in that area should not be less than 25 meters. Now there is a P&A manual on your chemical tankers. So that manual is ship specific. We'll have all the plans, the tank plans, the discharge plans, all those plans, pumping plan, everything will be there. And that will be in compliance with Annex 2. So that identifies the operational procedures with respect to your cargo handling, tank cleaning, slop handling, residue discharging, ballasting and deballasting of cargo tanks. So MARPOL Annex 2 requires that every chemical tanker will have this P&A manual. So this is concerned with the marine environmental aspects of cleaning of cargo tanks and discharge of cargo residues, which may or may not be mixed with washing medium. Now for the stripping test or the performance test, the record should be maintained in the P&A manual. So P&A manual also will have the contingencies during discharging, like your pump is not working or the valve is broken. So what actions to be taken, or heating coil not working. So all that will be mentioned in the P&A manual. So P&A manual is mandatory. So along with cargo record book and certificate of fitness, this will be checked by flag state and port state whenever they come on board. So without P&A manual, you are not going to get this certificate of fitness. Now, for oil tankers, we had oil record book. For chemical tankers, we have cargo record book. So cargo record book doesn't have part A and part B, or part 1, part 2. Simple cargo record book. So it is certified to carry noxious liquid substance in bulk and shall be informed as specified by the flag state and should be kept updated with revisions. So these can be inspected by the port state control, the government officers when the ship is in port. So therefore the master should keep a copy of these entries of these books as true copy, because in case this is lost or misplaced, then the PSC can hold the vessel. So any copy made which has been certified the master should be a true copy of the entry, and this is admissible in the court as evidence of fact is mentioned in the cargo record book. So it should be kept in a place which is readily available for inspection, except in case of unmanned ships, which is under tow. There it is kept with the tug, if it is unmanned ship. And cargo record book has to be retained for at least 3 years after the last entry. Now, in event of any accidental discharge of your noxious liquid substance or a mixture, then the entry should be done here in this cargo record book why this kind of discharge took place. Every entry has to be signed by the chief officer and the final page will be signed by the master. Now, what are the entries in cargo record book? So after completion of operations like loading, unloading, internal transfer, tank cleaning, pre-washing, all this has to be entered in cargo record. So when making entries, you have to write the date, operational code, item number, and that should be in chronological order. That means if it is 9 a.m., 10 a.m., 11 a.m., so that should be written like that, not that 10 a.m., 9 a.m., 8 a.m., and then 12 a.m. That should not be mentioned like that. It should be time-wise mentioned. So what are the entries made here? First is when you're loading cargo, place of loading, identity of tanks which loaded, what is the substance loaded, what is the category loaded. If you are transferring cargo internally, then identity of tank, from which tank to which tank you're transferring. Was this tank emptied? What is the quantity remaining after transfer? Your unloading tank, which is C, and the place of unloading, identity of tanks, was it emptied? Was pre-washed? What was the P&A manual requirements requiring pre-wash with disposal to reception facilities? Was there a failure of pump or stripping system? That has to be mentioned here. Then when you're doing mandatory pre-wash, as per P&A, that is for category X, and for Y, solidifying and highly viscous substances, you have a mandatory pre-wash. So there you have to write which tanks which substance, which category, what is the washing method. Pre-wash slops are transferred to shore. That was D. In E, you have cleaning of cargo tanks. That cleaning is after the pre-wash has been done, because that cleaning will you will be doing after you cross 12-mile barrier from the shore. And depth of water should be 25 meters. Your speed should be minimum 7 knots en route, and towed it will be 4 knots. So now cleaning of cargo tanks, which is not the mandatory pre-wash, and the final wash and the ventilation, that will be entered in this E column. So state time, which tanks, which substance, which category, was the tank washing of cleaning of tanks done to shore, or was it transferred to sea? Now, when you discharge your tank washings into sea, then you'll enter in category F, which tanks the cleaning was taking place, what time you started, what time you stopped, what was the ship speed. If you ballast cargo tanks for emergency, then you'll enter into G. So which tanks were ballasted, what was the time of ballasting, what was stopping time. Now, when you discharge ballast from cargo tanks into sea, this will be under H. So which tanks you had started of deballasting from the cargo tanks? Was it to the sea or reception facility? What time did you start? What time did you stop? What was the ship speed here? In I category is when there is an accident or exceptional discharge to save life, then you enter into I column. That is time of occurrence, how much quantity was discharged, which substance, which category, which circumstances led to the escape, was it collision, what is grounding, and the general remarks. Now, J category is done when your surveyors are coming on board. So if you've done the pre-wash, then they come on board and check whether you have done the pre-wash as per P&A manual. Which tanks have been, which port you're doing the pre-wash, for the tank substance category discharge ashore for your pre-wash, were the tanks emptied and the lines emptied, and was the pre-wash done as per the P&A manual. Then was the washing discharge ashore and the tanks emptied? Was an exemption granted for mandatory pre-wash? If you are exempting it, then the surveyor has to write why did he exempt it. Then you have to write his name, signature, organization, and government agency for which the surveyor is working. This will all be mentioned by the surveyor. And in case he is passing the tanks, then he will write that these tanks have been inspected and the pre-wash has been done as per P&A manual and Annex 2, and now the vessel can proceed for tank cleaning. Then additional operational remarks are given in case you have a failure of pump or you missed an entry, then you enter in code K. Now for the surveys which your chemical tanker will have, it's like your other tankers also. Initial survey, annual survey every year, intermediate survey of 2.5 years, and renewal survey, that is a 5-year period. After 5-year period, their final survey will be done. That is within 3 months of 5 years completion. So all will be mentioned on the certificate of fitness when the survey is done. So initial survey, the ship is put in service or before the certificate required under this annex is issued. They'll have a complete survey of your structure, equipment, fittings, arrangements. And the survey will ensure that your structure, equipments, and fittings are complying with Annex 2. Renewal survey will be done at intervals not exceeding 5 years. Within 3 months of that, there you will again have a detailed inspection and survey of your structure, equipment, fittings, arrangements, and materials which comply with Annex 2. Now intermediate survey, that is a 2.5 years. So this will happen either in the second annual survey or third annual survey. So this is within 3 months before or after the second anniversary date, or within 3 months before or after the third anniversary date. So here again, here the detail will not be there, but the inspection will be done of your pumps and piping system, which should comply with Annex 2. And all this will be endorsed in the certificate of fitness. So all this endorsing will be done in certificate of fitness. For tankers, it was done. For Annex 1, it was done on IOPP certificate. So that you have to remember where the endorsements are done here of these surveys. This is certificate of fitness. Then you have annual survey every year, which can be plus minus 3 months, plus 3 months or minus 3 months from the anniversary date. That is every year date. Here you have general inspection of structure, equipment, system, fittings, arrangements and material. And this will be endorsed on the COF or certificate of fitness. Then you can have an additional survey. So this is done in case you have a grounding or a collision, or maybe there is a major change in marpole which requires extensive repairs and changes. Then to check that everything is in order, you have an additional survey, and that will be also endorsed on your certificate of fitness. So with this additional survey, you ensure that your repairs are correct as per Annex 2, and the ship is fit for sailing. अब इसमें एक आता है SMPEP. Now in tankers you had SOPEP, but in chemical tankers SMPP आता है, तो वो अभी SMPP कराते हैं.
Excuse me, sir.
हाँ बोलो.
सर अभी आपने बताया सर जब हम टैंक क्लीनिंग करेंगे तो हमें जो टैंक क्लीनिंग का डिस्चार्ज है वो मोर देन 12 नॉटिकल माइल्स करना है सर.
हाँ,
तो सर इन केस अगर कोई शिप कोस्टल नेविगेशन कर रहा हो या फिर जो उसके पोर्ट्स हैं वो 12 नॉटिकल माइल्स से ज़्यादा दूर ना हो, तो फिर उसमें क्या करेंगे सर?
तो शोर में जाके करेंगे और क्या करेंगे. ये तो शोर में जाके करेंगे ना. शोर डिस्चार्ज करेंगे, शोर फैसिलिटी लेके करेंगे, या तो बाहर जाके करेंगे, लेकिन एंड रूट होना चाहिए. बाहर की रूट लेगा. कोस्टल करना है तो 12 नॉटिकल माइल से दूर जाओ, टैंक क्लीनिंग करके फिर अंदर आओ. वैसे कर सकते,
वो
बट एंड रूट होना चाहिए. वो एंड रूट होगा. लंबा वॉइज ले लो. इंस्टेड ऑफ गोइंग विद इन 3 माइल्स आप लंबा वॉइज ले लो. उसमें क्या है. ठीक है. सपोज आप जा रहे हो कांडला से बॉम्बे, कांडला से हल्दिया जा रहे हो, ठीक है, तो आप कोस्टल रहोगे ना. तो कोस्टल का मतलब है थोड़ा कि 12 नॉटिकल माइल में घूमोगे. आप बाहर निकल जाओ, 24 माइल पे चले जाओ. किसने रोका आपको? रोका है किसी ने? नहीं रोका ना. आप तो बाहर जाके करो. 12 में थोड़ा करोगे. फिर आप अपने रूट पे जाओ. अब जैसे है कि आपके जहाज हैं, सपोज केमिकल टैंकर है, आप फॉरेन वॉयज से आए, ठीक है. एक डिस्चार्ज था आपका कांडला, सेकंड डिस्चार्ज था चेन्नई. बीच में टैंक क्लीनिंग करनी है. अब जब आते हो फॉरेन से तो फिर कोस्टल वॉयज आ जाती है, करेक्ट है ना.
यस सर.
अब सपोज आप कहीं से बाहर से लोड करके आए तो वो तो आपकी इंटरनेशनल वॉयज हुई, लेकिन अब आपको कोस्टल वॉयज करने के नेक्स्ट पोर्ट डिस्चार्ज करना है, तो वो कोस्टल वॉयज होगी. इसके बीच में टैंक क्लीन करना है तो आप 12 माइल से बाहर जाके करो, जहाँ डेप्थ 25 मीटर हो कम से कम पानी का, राइट. अब ये नहीं कि आप वहीं चक्कर मारते रहो करो, वो अलाउड नहीं है. आप अपने रूट पे जाओ, थोड़ा लंबा रूट ले लो, उसमें किसी ने नहीं रोका. ठीक है. अब आता है जो आपका सपोज ऑयल कैम है, ठीक है. आपका ऑयल प्लस केमिकल टैंकर, मतलब जो आपको बताया था कि आप कुछ वॉयज में ऑयल कैरी करते हो, कुछ वॉयज में आप केमिकल करते हो। तो उस टाइम आपके पास एक ही प्लान होना चाहिए, वो है SMPEP। तो आपके सौपे को फिर आपको रखने की जरूरत नहीं है, आपके पास SMPP होगा। अगर वो प्योर केमिकल टैंकर है तो SMPP होगा, अगर प्योर ऑयल टैंकर है तो सौपेप होगा, लेकिन अगर वो दोनों है तो SMPP होगा। अब जो ऑयल टैंकर था उसमें हमें सौपेप चाहिए था। सो मार्पोल NX2 जो है, इसको थोड़ा इलाज करते हैं इसमें। सो ships of 150 gross tonnage and above carrying noxious liquid substance in bulk should carry approved shipboard marine pollution emergency plan for noxious liquid substances. So this is combined with SOPEP, and one plan is made which is SMPP. ठीक है, तो इधर से आते हैं आगे। अब SMPP है क्या? तो SMPP basically required for ships of 150 gross tonnage and above, एंड इनमें क्या है, चैप्टर्स आएंगे। एक प्रियम्बल आता है, रिपोर्टिंग रिक्वायरमेंट, स्टेप टू कंट्रोल डिस्चार्ज, नेशनल एंड लोकल कोऑर्डिनेशन, किस किस को इन्फॉर्म करना है स्पिल्स में, एडिशनल इंफॉर्मेशन, ऑयल एंड NLS स्पिल नोटिफिकेशन, कंटैक्ट किनको कंटैक्ट करना है, शिप इंफॉर्मेशन, कंपनी कम्युनिकेशन डिटेल, शिप इंटरेस्टेड कंटैक्ट, पोर्ट कंट्रैक्ट्स, इमरजेंसी रिस्पांस कंटैक्ट, किनको इमरजेंसी में कंटैक्ट करना है, एंड अदर इंफॉर्मेशन, ये आपके SMPP में मिलेंगे। ठीक है, तो ये सारी डिटेल मिलेगी इसमें। आपका केमिकल्स क्या क्या यूज करोगे टैंक स्पिल्स कंटेन करने के लिए, वो सब इसमें मिलेगा। ठीक है, तो एवरीथिंग यू विल फाइंड इन दिस SMPP। जरा आपको NX2 का जरा वीडियो दिखा देते हैं, SMPP का अगर वीडियो है वो भी दिखा देते हैं।
Hello friends, in this video we are going to talk about Annex 2 of MARPOL. So let's get started. Annex 2 is the regulation for the prevention of pollution by noxious liquid substances carried in bulk. Now this annex does not apply to harmful substances carried in any kind of packaging. This only applies to noxious liquid substances and chemicals which are carried in bulk. Annex 2 came into force on 6th of April 1987. Now carriage of chemicals in bulk is covered under two main conventions. First is the SOLAS Chapter 7, which is the carriage of dangerous goods, and second is the MARPOL Annex 2. Now both of these conventions, which is the MARPOL Annex 2 and SOLAS Chapter 7, require chemical tankers which are built after 1st July 1986 to comply with the International Bulk Chemical Code. Now International Bulk Chemical Code is a book which is to be carried by all vessels which are carrying chemicals and noxious liquid substances in bulk by sea. It contains some safety standards which are to be maintained while carriage of these dangerous chemicals and noxious liquid substances in bulk. This also sets out minimum design and construction standards of these vessels which are carrying dangerous chemicals and noxious liquid substances. IBC code also contains a complete list of chemicals and their environmental hazard rating. As per Annex 2, these noxious liquid substances which are carried by sea are categorized into four main categories on the basis of the harm that they can cause to the marine environment. So these four categories are category X, category Y, category Z, and other substances. Now we'll be looking into each category one by one. So let's go to category X. The noxious liquid substances which fall under category X, if discharged into the sea from tank cleaning or deblasting operation, are deemed to present a major hazard to the marine environment as well as the human health. Therefore, they are prohibited, absolutely prohibited to be discharged into the sea. Next up is category Y substances. Noxious liquid substances which fall under category Y when discharged into the sea from tank cleaning or deblasting operations present a hazard to the marine environment. Not a major one, but still a hazard to the marine environment. And therefore, there is a limitation on the quality and quantity of the discharge of these substances into the sea. The noxious liquid substances which fall under category Z, if discharged into the sea after tank cleaning or deblasting operations, present a minor hazard to the marine environment. Therefore, there are even less stringent restrictions which are to be followed, and they also can be discharged into the sea, keeping in mind the quality and the quantity of the discharge. The other substances are carried to present no harm to the marine environment, so they can be discharged into the sea with no restriction whatsoever after tank cleaning or deblasting operations. Now there are certain parameters of discharge of these noxious liquid substances on which their discharge standards are based upon. They are the maximum quantity of substances per tank which may be discharged into the sea. Now this is different for each tank depending upon the quantity of the chemicals that they can hold, the speed of the vessel during the discharge, the minimum distance from the nearest land during the discharge, the minimum depth of water at sea during the discharge, and whether the discharge is being carried out above the waterline or below the waterline. So let us look at the discharge standards of these noxious liquid substances. The first is that the ship should be proceeding en route and the speed of the vessel, which is self-propelled, should be a minimum of 7 knots, and in case if it is not self-propelled, it should be a minimum of 4 knots. The discharge of these substances should be made below the waterline through the underwater discharge outlet not exceeding the maximum rate for which it is designed. The discharge should be made at a distance of 12 nautical miles or more from the nearest land, and the depth of water should not be less than 25 meters in any case. Now, special area is a sea area where, due to certain oceanographic conditions, environmental conditions, and due to the traffic density in that area, certain regulations need to be implemented for the environmental protection of that area. So, as per Annex 2, there is just a single special area, which is the Antarctic area. Now, as per Annex 2, every ship which is carrying noxious liquid substances in bulk and complying with Annex 2 of MARPOL needs to carry a P&A manual, which is the procedure and arrangement manual, which is approved by the administration. What is the main purpose of this manual? This procedure and arrangement manual contains some important guidelines and the operational procedures which need to be followed during cargo handling, tank cleaning, slop handling, and cargo tank blasting and deblasting operations. Every ship which is carrying noxious liquid substances in bulk needs to carry a cargo record book. This cargo record book contains specific entries which are to be made on the basis of cargo handling. Each entry of this cargo record book has to be signed by the officer in charge, and each page has to be signed by the master of the vessel. The cargo record book shall be kept in such a place as to be readily available at all reasonable times for inspection, and it shall be preserved for a period of 3 years after the last entry has been made. Now, this is the list of entries which are to be made in the cargo record book: loading of cargo, internal transfer of cargo during the voyage, unloading of cargo, mandatory pre-wash, cleaning of cargo tanks, discharge into the sea of tank washing, ballasting of cargo tanks, discharge of ballast water from cargo tanks, accidental or exceptional discharge, control by authorized surveyors, and additional operational procedures and remarks. So SMPEP is the Shipboard Marine Pollution Emergency Plan. Every vessel of 150 gross rate tonnage and above, and which is carrying noxious liquid substances in bulk, needs to carry and comply with an SMPEP, which is the Shipboard Marine Pollution Emergency Plan, which is approved by the administration. Now, what does this plan consist of? This plan contains procedures to be followed to report a noxious liquid substance pollution incident. This contains a list of authorities or persons to be contacted in case of that incident, a detailed description of the action which needs to be taken by the ship's crew to reduce or control the discharge of this pollution incident, and the procedures and point of contact on the ship for coordinating shipboard actions with the national and local authorities in combating and reducing the extent of pollution. So by this, we come to an end of.
You might not know what SSL is, but hackers do, and they hate it. Which is why you need it. It's like having a
Hello friends, I have received an overwhelming response from all of you for videos of Marpol Annex 1 and Annex 2, and a lot of requests to upload other annexes as well. In this video, we are going to discuss about Annex 3 of Marpol. So let's get started. Marpol Annex 3 is the regulation for the prevention of pollution by harmful substances carried in packaged form. Annex 3 entered into force on 1st of July 1992, and the revised Annex 3 entered into force in October 2010. First of all, let us understand to which all ships Annex 3 applies to. The Annex applies to all ships carrying harmful substances in any kind of packaging, in containers, in portable tanks. Portable tanks are tanks which can be moved from one place to another. Road tanks or trucks, which you can see here, and rail tank wagons, which look like this. Now the question that arises is, what is a harmful substance? Harmful substances are those substances which are identified as marine pollutants in the IMDG code. IMDG code is the International Maritime Dangerous Goods Code. For those of you who don't know about the IMDG code, it is a set of 3 books which has to be carried and complied at all times when a vessel is carrying dangerous goods in packaged form. So it basically contains a set of guidelines and instructions and regulations to facilitate the free unrestricted movement of dangerous goods and protection of the marine environment. As I told you, the IMDG code comprises of 3 books: Volume 1, Volume 2, and the supplement. Volume 1 of the IMDG code contains general provisions, classifications of the dangerous goods, and guidelines on packing, marking, and transporting dangerous goods, while Volume 2 contains the dangerous goods list. It is a list of dangerous goods carried by sea, and whenever a letter Papa is given against a substance in the DG list, it means that that substance is a marine pollutant. This is the dangerous goods list which is given in Volume 2 of the IMDG code. Let's take an example to make you understand even better. So as you can see, substances are listed in this column, and in column 4, wherever you find a letter P, that means that substance is a marine pollutant. So have a look at this substance. This substance is acetylene, and there is a dash given against this substance. This means that this substance is not a marine pollutant. Now if we look at ammonia, P is given against this substance. This means that ammonia is a marine pollutant. In the same way, chlorine is also a marine pollutant, while carbon monoxide, carbon dioxide, butylene are not marine pollutants. So this is how it goes. In Volume 1 of the IMDG code, marine pollutant is defined as substances which are subject to the provisions of Annex 3 of MARPOL as amended, and this is the marking which is used for marine pollutant. If you want to know more about the IMDG code, click the link in description below to watch the video on IMDG code. By now, I hope the main objective of Annex 3 is clear to you. The regulations of Annex 3 were developed in order to identify the marine pollutants and transport them in such a way to minimize the marine pollution, and also to distinguish between the cargoes which are marine pollutants and which are less harmful. Next is the discharge criteria. As per Annex 3, the rules on discharging harmful goods are straightforward. It is absolutely prohibited to discharge harmful substances into the sea, except where there is a grave or imminent danger to the vessel or life of a person. Now let's have a look at the requirements of Annex 3. The Annex states that appropriate measures based on the physical, chemical, and biological properties of harmful substances shall be taken to regulate the washing of leakages overboard, provided that compliance with such measures would not impair the safety of the ship and persons on board. So this basically means that sufficient steps need to be taken based on the properties of a harmful substance to prevent its discharge into the sea overboard. The regulations of Annex 3 require issuing of detailed standards on packaging, marking, documentation, and stowage of dangerous goods for preventing or minimizing pollution by harmful substances. The guidelines on all of the above are given in the IMDG code. Please.
Excuse me, sir.
Yeah, I've just shown you the video. I'll start with that PPT after this. हाँ बोलो.
सर ये जो हमारा एनएक्स 3 कार्गो है ये हम बेसिकली कंटेनर शिप पे कैरी करते हैं सर.
हाँ कंटेनर्स में, पैकेज फॉर्म में, कंटेनर में, जनरल कार्गो, उसमें भी डेंजरस को NX 3 आ जाता है जब आप ड्रम्स में कैरी कर रहे हो, राइट. अब कॉस्टिक सोडा सपोज सैक में कैरी कर रहे हो तो वो भी डेंजरस गुड्स है, पैकेज फॉर्म में है. तो अब पीपीटी कराते हैं, मैंने कहा पहले आपको वीडियो दिखा दें, देन आई कैन शो यू द पीपीटी. अब इसमें कोई स्पेशल एरिया नहीं है, देयर इज नो स्पेशल एरिया इन NX 3. बाकी सब में स्पेशल एरिया है, बट NX 3 में कोई स्पेशल एरिया नहीं. अब वही कॉस्टिक सोडा अगर आपने लिक्विड में कैरी किया बल्क में तो वो NX2 में आ जाता है, और वही चीज अगर हमने कंटेनर में कैरी की NX3 में आ जाता है। सो NX3 में वो आता है जो भी हार्मफुल है मरीन एनवायरनमेंट पे, अदरवाइज वो IMDG में चला जाएगा। सो इट विल कम इन NX3 व्हेन इट इज हार्मफुल टू मरीन एनवायरनमेंट, because MARPOL is basically harmful to whatever we are dealing with, whatever is harmful to marine environment. So most of the IMDG goods will come under NX3 because most of the IMDG goods are harmful to marine environment. So NX3 जो आया था came in force in 1st July 1992, और इसमें जो था regulations are to prevent pollution of harmful substances in packaged form. ये देख लो, it is not in bulk form but packaged form. एंड इसमें आपकी रिक्वायरमेंट्स थी स्टैंडर्ड्स ऑफ पैकिंग, मार्किंग कैसे करेंगे, लेबल कैसे करेंगे, डॉक्यूमेंटेशन कैसे करेंगे, स्टोरेज कैसे करेंगे, कुछ रिक्वायरमेंट्स थी क्वांटिटी लिमिटेशंस की, कुछ एक्सेप्शंस की, एंड नोटिफिकेशंस फॉर प्रिवेंटिंग पोल्यूशन बाय हार्मफुल सब्सटेंसेस। ये पूरा आपका NX3 में आएगा। अब इसमें आपके फ्रेट कंटेनर जो ट्रेन आप रोड पे ले जाते हो, रेल कंटेनर्स ट्रेन वैगन में कैरी करते हो, इसको भी हार्मफुल सब्सटेंसेस कैरी करेंगे अगर इसकी सफाई नहीं हुई। अगर इसके रेसिड्यूज क्लियर है तो हार्मफुल सब्सटेंसेस नहीं है, अगर उसमें रेसिड्यूज हैं डिस्चार्ज के बाद तो उसको हार्मफुल सब्सटेंस मानेंगे। So packaging, containers and tanks should be adequate to minimize hazard to marine environment. फिर इसमें रिक्वायरमेंट्स थी मार्किंग, लेबलिंग, पैकेजेस की लेबलिंग कैसे करना है, फ्रेट कंटेनर्स जो कैरी करते हैं, टैंक कंटेनर्स, वैगन्स, और जब कई बार हम हजार्डस डेंजरस गुड कैरी करते हैं रोड पे, वो भी NX3 में आ जाता है। So packages containing harmful substances should have a correct technical name. तो जो उसका टेक्निकल नेम है वो यूज करना है, ना कि उसका ट्रेड नेम। प्लस जो पैकेजेस हैं उसके ऊपर मार्किंग होगी कि मरीन पोल्यूटेंट है। ड्यूरेबली मार्क का मतलब है पानी में इमर्शन के बाद भी वो निकले ना। प्लस आइडेंटिफिकेशन शैल बी सप्लीमेंटेड विद UN नंबर। UN नंबर होता है फॉर IMDG, तो वही UN नंबर NX3 में भी आएगा। अब इसकी पैकिंग कैसे, मार्किंग कैसी होगी, कि जो पैकेजेस हैं उसकी मार्किंग शुड सरवाइव 3 months इमर्शन इन सी वाटर। 3 महीना इमर्स करने के बाद भी वो लेबल्स आप पढ़ सकते हो। So suitable marking, labeling and account should be taken of durability of material used and surface of package. आप IMDG जब आप पढ़ोगे तो उसमें होगा स्मॉल क्वांटिटी, तो स्मॉल क्वांटिटी के ऊपर मार्किंग करने की जरूरत नहीं, क्यों आपका सपोज छोटा सा पैकेट, उसमें मार्किंग तो दिखाई नहीं देगी, उसको एग्जेम्प्ट कर देंगे मार्किंग से। अब इसमें क्या डॉक्यूमेंटेशन चाहिए NX3 के लिए, तो ऑल डॉक्यूमेंट्स रिलेटिंग टू कैरेज ऑफ हार्मफुल सब्सटेंसेस शुड हैव करेक्ट टेक्निकल नेम, ट्रेड नेम नहीं चलेगा। प्लस उसमें मार्किंग होगी कि मरीन पोल्यूटेंट लिखा होगा, मतलब इस सब्सटेंस से आपके एनवायरनमेंट में, समुद्र में पोल्यूशन हो सकता है। और इसके साथ क्या क्या डॉक्यूमेंट्स मिलेंगे आपको, एक होगा सर्टिफिकेट, साइन सर्टिफिकेट और डिक्लेरेशन बाय द शिपर दैट उसने मार्किंग प्रॉपर और लेबलिंग और प्लेकार्डिंग प्रॉपर की है, और जिससे ये हजार्ड मिनिमाइज हो जाता मरीन एनवायरनमेंट। ये उसका डिक्लेरेशन होना चाहिए शिपर का कि उसकी मार्केटिंग और पैकेजिंग और लेबलिंग सब प्रॉपर है एज पर NX3। प्लस थर्ड होगा कि जो जो शिप्स कैरी करता है हार्मफुल सब्सटेंस, उसकी एक स्पेशल लिस्ट बनती है और मैनिफेस्ट बनता है कि आपने क्या क्या लोड किया जहाज, क्योंकि अगर पोर्ट स्टेट कंट्रोल आता है तो उसको भी ये लिस्ट देनी पड़ती है। क्योंकि अगर आप नहीं दोगे तो पीएससी आपको क्लियर ग्राउंड दे देगा डिटेल इंस्पेक्शन के लिए। तो उनको भी ये लिस्ट पकड़ानी पड़ती है कि आप कौन कौन से हार्मफुल सब्सटेंस कैरी करते हो। तो मैनिफेस्ट होता है कहाँ क्या लोड कर रहे हो, कितना लोड कर रहे हो। उसी तरह डिटेल स्टोरेज प्लान होगा जिसमें लोकेशन होगी, कहाँ क्या लोड कर रहे हो। अगर आपने स्पेशल लिस्ट या मैनिफेस्ट नहीं रखा तो डिटेल स्टोरेज प्लान आपके पास होना चाहिए। तो एक तो आपके पास होना चाहिए, ओनर के पास होना चाहिए, पीएससी को भी देना है। So copies of these documents shall be retained on or shore by the owner of the ship or his representative until this is discharged from the ship. Plus, copy of these documents shall be available before departure to persons or organizations designated by Port State Authority. तो उनके पास भी एक कॉपी जानी चाहिए। तो उनको भी पता होना चाहिए कि जहाज पे डेंजरस गुड्स हैं। So when your ship carries detailed special list, manifest or detailed storage plan, then it can be combined with IMDG goods declaration also. लेकिन जब आपके Annex 3 के गुड्स को IMDG के साथ कंबाइन करते हैं तो फिर आपको देखना पड़ेगा डेंजरस क्या है और हार्मफुल क्या है, क्योंकि मरीन पोल्यूटेंट वाला होगा Annex 3 और जो मरीन पोल्यूटेंट नहीं है वो हार्मफुल हो गया या डेंजरस हो गया। तो वो आप जब कंबाइन करोगे तो उनके दोनों के बीच का डिस्टिंक्शन होना चाहिए। अब क्या है कि सर्टेन हार्मफुल सब्सटेंसेस नीड टू बी प्रोहिबिटेड फॉर कैरेज और लिमिटेड टू द क्वांटिटी विच में बी कैरिड ऑन बोर्ड। तो अगर हमने उसकी क्वांटिटी लिमिट कर दी तो पैकेजिंग भी छोटी हो जाएगी, और वो अगर पैकेजिंग बहुत छोटी हो गई तो मार्किंग एग्जेम्प्ट हो जाती है। अब Annex 3 सारे आपके मापोल में एनेक्सेस हैं, उन सब में ये एक्सेप्शन है। ये आप वैसे फेंक नहीं सकते, बट अगर शिप को बचाना है या सेव करना लाइफ एट सी, तब आप उसको पानी में फेंक सकते हो और उसकी एंट्री अकॉर्डिंगली रिकॉर्ड बुक में करनी है। Subject to the provision of present convention, appropriate measures based on physical, chemical or biological properties of harmful substances shall be taken to regulate the washing of leakages overboard, and provided that the compliance with this measure will not impair the safety of ship and persons on board. Now Annex 3 will have regulations जिसमें आपका application, packing, marking, labeling, documentation, storage, quantity limitations, exceptions, port state control on operation requirement and marine polluted, ये इसके पार्ट होंगे। So harmful substances जो हैं, they'll be identified as marine pollutant in IMDG code. So that is the end of your PPT. So आपके कोई questions? Any questions you have? इसमें कुछ आपका
ये जेटिसनिंग का मतलब क्या था? ये वर्ड आया था।
जेटिसन मतलब फेंकना, जेटसनिंग मतलब फेंकना। जेटसनिंग का जो इसका मतलब है कि इन केस आपकी इमरजेंसी हो, अब जैसे आपका प्लेन है, ठीक है, प्लेन फ्लाई कर रहा है और उसकी प्लेन में प्रॉब्लम आ गई तो कार्गो भी हम फेंक सकते हैं, दैट मीन्स फ्यूल फेंक देते हैं वो प्लेन वाले। कई बार ऐसा हुआ है कि फ्यूल फेंक रहे हैं क्योंकि वो लोड नहीं ले पा रहा है, तो तेल भी फेंक देते
Yes.
हैं। उसी तरह शिप भी फेंकता है, फेंक सकता है। सपोज जहाज की स्टेबिलिटी खराब है तो हो सकता है कंटेनर भी फेंक दे पानी में, है ना। तो ये होता है जेटिसनिंग,
यस सर।
वो लास्ट
सर
रिजॉर्ट होता है। हाँ बोलो।
यस सर, एक एनेक्स 2 का क्वेश्चन है। ये आपने बताया था जो आपने वो लिस्ट दिखा शो करी थी कि स्ट्रिप टू 350 लीटर देन स्ट्रिप टू 150 लीटर। सो सर ये जो स्ट्रिप टू 350 लीटर है उसके बाद
Strip का
150
मतलब
हो गया, इसका वर्ड क्या हुआ? मतलब कि
नहीं,
एक
मैं
बार में
पहले
हम
समझा।
350।
नहीं 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 नहीं, ये पहले समझा देता हूँ। 350 लीटर का मतलब क्या है।
ओके सर।
पहले
ओके सर।
पंप इतने अच्छे नहीं थे, ठीक है, पहले इतने पंप अच्छे नहीं थे, गियर
यस।
पंप्स होते थे, स्टीम पंप्स होते थे, ठीक है, तो वो उतना सक्शन नहीं लेते थे 1986 से पहले। तो वो पंप्स जब सक्शन छोड़ देते थे वो 350 लीटर के आसपास बचता था। तो हमारे उस टाइम फ्रैमो पंप आए नहीं थे, फ्रैमो पंप आए 2007 में, उसके बाद 75 लीटर का चक्कर हुआ। तो इसका मतलब जब हम पंप आउट करेंगे इससे ज्यादा कार्गो टैंक में नहीं होगा, इंक्लूडिंग पाइपलाइन। पाइपलाइन को भी अगर हमने
तो
ड्रेन
सर
किया।
ये 350 लीटर है, ये पूरे टैंक में इतना ये रिक्वायरमेंट थी?
नहीं 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 नहीं, इतना इससे ज्यादा नहीं बचना चाहिए डिस्चार्ज करने के बाद। भाई
अच्छा
जब
सर,
डिस्चार्ज
समझ।
करते हो आपके जो बिल्जेस में जो पानी बचता है वो इससे ज्यादा नहीं होना चाहिए।
ओके सर, समझ गया।
स्ट्रिप का मतलब क्या है, पूरा खाली किया टैंक, तो इससे ज्यादा
यस।
पाइपलाइन और टैंक में मिला के नहीं होना चाहिए। तो पहले वो 350 लीटर हुए, फिर 150 लीटर हुआ, और अब जो है 2007 के बाद सब 75 लीटर हो गए, जो ड्रम आधे ड्रम से भी कम है, ठीक है।
यस सर, थैंक यू
एनी
सर,
अदर।
थैंक यू सो मच।
चलो फिर वील हैव अ ब्रेक, अभी आप लंच ब्रेक ले लो, एंड वील मीट नेक्स्ट वीक। सो हैव अ नाइस वीकेंड, राइट।
सेम टू
और
सर।
आपको नोट्स, और आपको जो शिप कंस्ट्रक्शन के नोट्स हैं वो भेज दूंगा, आई सेंड यू, ठीक है।
सर इसके भी नोट्स भेज दो सर।
एनेक्स 2 और एनेक्स 3 भी भेज दीजिएगा सर।
अच्छा ये आपके पास नहीं आया ना, भेज देंगे मारपोल के सारे नोट्स, ठीक है, सारे मारपोल के नोट्स भेज देंगे आपको।
थैंक यू सर।
ओके ओके,
थैंक यू सर।
बाय बाय। राइट
थैंक यू सर।
राइट जी, बाय बाय।
थैंक यू सर।